Hello guys and gals, welcome back to another episode of Haunted Gaming. Since we haven't done a Legend of Zelda creepypasta in such a long time, we return to one called The Legend of Zelda: The Dark Rites. When The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons were released for the Game Boy Color, I could hardly believe it. Not one, but two new Zelda games in my favorite handheld device. I practically cheered when I saw the advertisement posters in my local supermarket. The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening had been my favorite handheld RPG game, so I knew I had to get one of these games. I ran home and begged my dad to buy just one of them, and he smiled. What did you say?" I asked him. "So do you want Oracle of Ages or Oracle of Seasons?" he asked me. "Either will do, just please," I begged. He smiled again and pulled something out of a brown paper bag. I knew what it was before he even finished taking it out. It was Oracle of Ages. "Thank you so much, Dad," I said, hugging him. I ran upstairs to grab my Game Boy, and my journey in Labrina began. I breezed through the majority of the game, being hindered only by Jabu Jabu's belly in the ancient tomb. I eventually reached Varen, and realized that she wasn't all she was made up to be. After her final demise, I watched the credits. At the end of it all, I got the holodrum secret. Wait, what does that mean? I thought for a minute, and eventually realized that the two games could be linked. What a cool idea, I thought. But that meant Dad would have to buy Oracle of Seasons if I wanted to see the real ending. I thought he wouldn't mind, so I went to ask him. "When I see one going cheap, I'll snap it up for you. Money's a little tight at the moment, sport," he explained. "It's okay, I'll wait," I told him, when in reality I couldn't. So to pass time, I decided to play Oracle of Ages, until I gotten everything that I could legitly get. After a few weeks, I'd done just that. I knew that if Oracle of Seasons didn't arrive soon, I'd have to find something else to pass the time. Luckily, though, a few days later, it did arrive. After constantly thanking my dad, I ran upstairs and put it into my Game Boy, replacing Ages with Seasons. I noticed just how similar the two games were just by watching the cinematic intro. The first thing that caught my eye, however, was that there was already a file on there. It was called Chris. I decided to leave the file there, as respect to the original owner, and start afresh. I found Seasons to be easier than Ages, and got through it faster than expected. Even Onox's Dark Dragon form was simple enough. After the credits, though, I expected the Labrina secret. But all I got was coding where the password should have been. A glitch, I thought? The game then reset itself, and I went back to the menu screen, but there was a problem. My file wouldn't load properly, because all I got was Korn's face staring at the screen. I then realized that I had lost all my progress. I cursed and decided to check the Chris file. It seemed normal enough for me. Just a completed file with all that could be obtained at that point. Just like my file. What a coincidence, I thought. Then I remembered the whole reason I got this game. The link function. I decided to try Ages to Season first, and so I erased my corrupt file and started a new one, with the secret entered. I immediately noticed a new intro scene. Characters like Impa, Bippin, and Blossom recognized me from Labrina. There were secrets to enter into my Ages file, so I could get new items like Bombchus and Bigoron's sword, and a guest appearance by Zelda herself. The story was the same with slight differences, and I eventually defeated Onox for a second time. I then got the penultimate ending, with the fight against Combe and Kotake Twinrova occurring before fighting Ganon himself. Victory achieved! I watched the ending and got the password, Hero Secret. I wrote this down and set about completing Ages with Chris's file from Seasons. I expected the same kind of thing, which was exactly what I got. Then I realized a change. Instead of calling me Chris, the characters would call me the Imposter. I thought this was part of the Seasons-linked game storyline and continued as normal. That was until I reached the final essence of time. As I entered the ancient tomb, I entered a cutscene with Coombe and Kotake at the Room of Rites altar. The following text ensued. "Do you think he knows what we know?" "No, he doesn't, and won't." "No, he won't, because he'll experience the same pain Chris felt." "Yes, the imposter thinks this is all a game. Things will turn out horribly for him. And then it will be a game no more." The cutscene ended suddenly. I had a feeling that the Gerudo witches were talking about me, and wondered what they meant by the same pain Chris felt. I knew this wasn't part of the storyline, but couldn't figure out what was happening. After all, my original file on Ages had been fine. Was it the result of linking? I wasn't sure, and carried on like it was nothing. I got the last essence and proceeded to challenge Varen. It seemed like she knew about the same pain Chris felt, because she told me that her death would change nothing, and that I would still be unable to stop Twinrova from completing their plan. I beat her final form and was immediately teleported to the Room of Rites basement. Coombe and Kotake were flying in front of me. "We have no need of Princess Zelda anyways," they said. "We have you. You will be the sacrifice. Witness the flames of the dark rites burn, the flame of sorrow, lit by the sorceress of shadows Varen. The flame of destruction, lit by the general of darkness Onox, the flame of despair, lit by Chris." What do they mean, I thought. "Oh, you don't know about Chris, do you? His demise lit the flame of despair. We fought him, and he fought well, but we were too much for him. His avatar destroyed, we proceeded to destroy his mind. Thus the final flame of the dark rite was lit. Now we have our sacrifice. Ganon will return, through your real body. Prepare for your doom." My head spinning, CREEPYPASTA becoming one, and Twinrova attacked. Then it hit me. I wasn't fighting for Labrina, or Holodrum anymore. I was fighting for my life. Even though I'd fought her before, Twinrova had some new tricks up her sleeve. She could summon dark links, much like Varen, and a crystal with a link clone inside. Hitting it damaged me, like hitting Din in her crystal form when Onox summons it. I tried to avoid damage wherever possible, and wore the heart ring L2 to keep me alive. I had a magic potion at the ready, but wasn't sure it would work. Twinrova taunted me throughout the battle too, saying how I was fighting in vain, and that the summoning of the evil king could not be stopped. I dealt several blows in the rope, paralyzing her, and shot out a mystery seed. It was a finishing blow. Twinrova did the same death animation as usual, but her text had changed. "So you bested me, but you only withheld the summoning. Watch your back, because we'll be watching you." She started exploding. "Always watching." And then she disappeared. The stairway appeared, and I proceeded to walk up to the Room of Rites. After the battle with Ganon, the flames were usually diminished. They burned vigorously, though. I couldn't leave the door, and the stairway closed behind me. Falling down the hole still did damage. But as I tried it a second time, I noticed something. Every time I took damage, there was faint laughter in the background, similar to an old woman's laugh. I guessed it was jHAQyknC7tE, haunting me from the grave. Resetting the game and reloading the file spawned me in the same location, with one less row of hearts. My heart ring L2 wasn't working either. I knew what was happening. They wanted to kill Link. I knew what I had to do. I turned the game off and took it out of the Game Boy. I then proceeded to put it back in its box and put it in my cupboard. There it lay for around 3 days before my dad asked me how my games were coming along. I told him that they were just doing fine. The next day, I went to my local supermarket with both games in hand. After ages, seasons began playing up. They referenced an imposter scene in Labrina, and I still heard jHAQyknC7tE laugh when I took damage in game. I realized that I'd have to dispose of both games, to rid myself of this horror, because even starting a new file didn't stop it. Anyways, the clerk in the store asked why I was selling the game, and I told him that I beat him fully, and plan on starting again. But they started playing up, so I decided to sell them to buy new ones. He asked me if I wanted to swap my ones for some new ones, but I knew jHAQyknC7tE would continue haunting me in those games, so I told him no thanks, because I saw some cheaper elsewhere, so I'd buy them there. He didn't mind and took the games to test. They played fine, and he paid me £20 for each. I went home and felt better, knowing that those Gerudo witches couldn't hurt me now. I enjoyed the rest of my day, and went to bed, ready to start gaming afresh. Oh, how naive I was. I dreamed that I was Link, and I was on my way to save Zelda from Ganon. I had this dream before, but things felt different this time. Everything looked, well, gloomier. The wildlife, the people, even the sky, everything just looked gloomy. I eventually did arrive at Ganon's castle, and the door was open, but before I entered, though, I heard laughing, in an elderly woman's tone. I went in, and inside the castle it looked exactly like the Room of Rites. In the second room there were several statues, all staring in different directions. There were 4 doors to go through. Just like in-game, the direction the statues didn't look, I would go through. The next room repeated this process. This happened about 10 times before I finally reached a different room. I knew what was coming. I saw jHAQyknC7tE in the room of the flames of the dark rites. They were in front of the table. Someone was lying on it, but I couldn't see them. The following conversation took place. "So, imposter, you really think you've stopped us? You were the true sacrifice, but that doesn't mean we can't use another host for Ganon. Yes, watch the destructive capabilities of a demon in your world. Watch as human lives feel despair, sorrow, and destruction all at once. You're helpless to stop us from this attempt, imposter." Everything then went black. I woke up feeling worried, though. I knew that they were probably serious. I wondered what they were capable of. I shrugged it off and went downstairs to start my day. I got my breakfast and sat down in front of the TV to watch the news. About 5 minutes in, a story caught my eyes. 10-year-old boy kills parents with fork. It sounded interesting, so I listened to the story. What I heard made me have this feeling of dread, the more I heard, though. A 10-year-old boy was insane, and screamed demonic phrases at his parents before stabbing them both in the heart with a serving fork. He then proceeded to wreck his home before attacking people on the street outside his house. Police were forced to shoot to kill to prevent further loss of life. At the same moment, his heart gave out. Witnesses claimed they heard laughter, very faint. They all agreed that it sounded like an elderly woman. This is already enough for me to confirm Twinrova had succeeded in their sacrifice. But what the boy said, while in his fit of rage, sealed the deal. I am Ganon. Destroy all, kill all. The media blamed the games for the parent's death and his behavior, but I knew it wasn't the games. Twinrova had succeeded in summoning Ganon into the real world. He could have caused mass destruction and death, if the true sacrifice's body was used. But it wasn't. I was the true sacrifice, but I fought back and won. Twinrova was forced to use another boy, just like in-game. When Link beats Twinrova before Zelda was ready to be sacrificed, they were forced to use another body, namely their own. I'm not sure how many times they can sacrifice someone to summon Ganon, but rest assured though, he won't be his true cunning self. I was the true sacrifice. Without my body, they can only cause minor damage here in the real world. When I grew out of Zelda, Culm and Katak stopped appearing in my dreams. They had done several times after the incident with the 10-year-old, taunting me how he screamed in pain when Ganon possessed him. But because they weren't appearing to me anymore, doesn't mean they're done. People still play Oracle of Ages and Seasons, so there's a small chance that they could try again. No one believes my story, though. So I advise you to play those games at your own risk, because you too could end up being the mind of the evil king. You could have his mind inside you. Just saying. Well, so we finally returned to a Zelda creepypasta after a long time, and was it good? Well, yeah, it wasn't kill-waker bad or anything, and it was kind of nice. It was kind of like the early creepypastas we did in this series. Now, as far as cliches go, it had some, and one noticeable one, I guess, it was the resetting of the game, which isn't such a big deal, but here it's noted. It wasn't killing the mood or anything, so don't fret. Now, it started okay, Dad buying a game through normal means, but hell, we don't even know what those means are, and now that you think about it, so tell me in the comments below, what means could the dad have obtained the game? Numerous ways, so tell me. Now, moving on though, I did like how the game felt realistic, like some of the phenomenon seemed, actually, it seemed quite real. Almost had this misfortune vibe to it. Now, one of the questions I haven't asked in a long time, very long time, when it comes to these creepypastas, is can it be real? Look, as far as the phenomenon goes, there weren't any hyper-realistic graphics or any of that nonsense. The game was altered to show code at the end. It could be possible, as well as changes in text and pictures appearing in the game that could just be injected. It seems quite possible. I'm no expert on ROM hacking, but it seems doable from a rough technical standpoint. Plus, these are very, very, very popular games, so granted there is a individual modding community around them. Anyone who knows more about this field of hacking and software engineering, please let me know in the comments below. So this could technically be a well thought out hacked game. The altered cutscenes I'm a little confused on since they seem kind of far-fetched. Now the reaction from the player, selling the game was nice, unique, almost heart-stopping. Instead of continuing with this madness, the player shockingly decides to give up and throw the stuff away. Honestly, this is something I really have to note. All the time in creepypastas, you see players delving deeper and deeper, and me at times just defending it by saying it's curiosity. But there shouldn't be this much curiosity. There should be a certain point where you should just stop and really move on with your life, thinking, hey, I'm not going to dabble in this, or it's not worth my time. The final thing was the news media, and the killer 10-year-old, I have to note. I kind of don't like this in a creepypasta, since in my opinion, for a creepypasta to be really, really good though, it has to have this realism, a hint of realism, something that makes you think that yes, it could actually be real. Now, if something like this happened in the hot topic issue of video game violence, then it would be heard everywhere in the world for a long time, used as a major point. And yeah, maybe the world wasn't as connected as it was back in 2001 as it is now, but still it would be heard across the world. Something as dangerous as this about this new fledgling media, especially with Nintendo making killer games, no pun intended, it's a news network's wet dream. But really, this is what I think. It's a nice creepypasta. It has some unique things in it. I guess I liked the whole sacrifice for Ganon. Thought it was nice. It had like the sort of uber story, I guess, like, overarching meta story, I guess, if you wanted to say, about the whole like event. I thought it was nice. It wasn't something I really cared about, though. The player being the only one that can be the true sacrifice for the Dark Lord Ganon. And, you know, it had some issues. This creepypasta had issues, but ultimately it did hold up. What would you change to make this creepypasta better, and what would you rate it? This has been another episode of Haunted Gaming, and if you like what you saw, then like, comment, and subscribe. This is me, Moodheart. I am out.